Dead Rising is one of those game series I always wanted to play as a kid, but never really got the chance, and seeing as the first game in the series was released exclusively on Xbox 360 in 2006, I thought I'd never get the chance to play it. But 10 years after its release, they remastered the game, releasing it on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Windows PC, which is what I played the game on 10 years after its release. And seeing as the remastered version is an identical copy of the 2006 game, it made me wonder if this game even holds up to today's standards and if it's even worth playing today. And so I found myself thinking, is Dead Rising even any fun? Alright man, so you start off the game in a helicopter where you play as Frank West, a photographic journalist who has heard there is something big going on in the small town of Willamette, Colorado, and has organized for a helicopter to drop him off at the local shopping center. The game starts off as we journey to the shopping center and we see the town is going to hell as it appears zombies have taken over. And playing as Frank West, we take pictures of the chaos happening below the comfort of our helicopter ride. And I like the fact that Frank West being a photographic journalist is not just a narrative for the plotline, but it's also reflected in the gameplay itself as we take pictures from the helicopter. I snap a couple pictures of a man on top of a car who dies to zombies, a woman stranded on top of a building who gets killed by zombies, and a petrol station exploding. And the game rewards us for it via prestigious points, also referred to as PP. And the more dramatic the picture, the more PP we are rewarded with. So what is the use of PP? Well, more on that later. So we land on the rooftop of the shopping center and the game states its premise. We must survive 72 hours from this point onwards and discover the mystery of the zombie epidemic in this town. Then return to this exact rooftop after those 72 hours have passed to reunite with the pilot and head home with the story of a lifetime. So on top of this building we meet Carlos, and the voice acting is pretty good. Just have a listen.
Hello there. Huh? You're the reporter, aren't you?
Yeah.
You came alone.
Yeah, I'm freelance. You know, go on the battlefield alone, no crew. So, what's going on around here anyway?
Frank tries to get some basic information about the situation from Carlos, but he doesn't give us any answers and instead encourages us to head down and see what's going on for ourselves. And when the cutscene ends, we can walk up and talk to Carlos, but there is no audio that plays. Instead, the game just gives us some extra lines of dialogue, which initially stunned me, seeing as it's a AAA game made by Capcom which features professional voice acting. So to see them skip out on a couple extra lines of dialogue after cutscenes just felt a little cheap to me, but I was happy to look past it. However, we'll see how this hurts the game later on. So I head down to the security room to find a number of locker rooms that allow me to change my outfit. And the amount of outfits to change into in just this room alone is insane. The customization in just this room alone is crazy. But more on the customization in just a little bit. So now armed with nothing but a camera and my new stylish outfit, I make my way to the shopping center's entrance where I meet the current survivors of the outbreak.
Quit screwing around!
Have you seen my baby? I can't live without my precious little sweetie doggy. Oh, where is my Madonna? Where is she? Oh, Madonna.
Hey, this is no time to ogle pretty girls, son. You looking to get yourself eaten alive by zombies?
What? Did you just say zombies?
Take a look out there. If those ain't zombies, what would you call them? There's been more and more of them since last night. Now, they're all that's out there. Look on the bright side. Zombies are stupid and slow. We should be safe in here. All right then. Feel like making yourself useful? Take a look around the mall. Bring anything we can use for the barricade back here. Andale! Come on, pronto!
From there we look around for something to use for a barricade for the doors, and whilst wandering around we can listen in on other survivors' conversations to get a good sense of who they are.
Damn it! Every time I come shopping with you, something happens to raise my blood pressure.
What do you mean every time? You don't even come home most nights, let alone take me shopping.
So? I work for a living.
Work? Huh. Is that what you call that hanky-panky with that big-titted secretary now?
Oh, please. What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Listen here. Every time something goes wrong, you have to raise your voice. I never should have married you.
You want to split up then? Sounds great.
Not scared.
I can't wait to see the look on your face when those zombies eat you. It'll be hilarious.
That's my line, Buster.
You may have already noticed whilst they were talking their mouths were not moving. First making us read dialogue and now this. This game is already showing some minor quality issues early on. Anyway, I spot some benches and garbage bins to use for the barricade and then this happens.
You! Stop right there! Do you have any idea what you've done? Why did you summon me to this place? What are you planning?
Would you calm down? I don't even know what you're talking about. What the...
Madonna! My Madonna is out there! Oh,
What are you thinking?
Madonna!
Get off!
Oh, wait, baby! I'm saving you, baby! Wait for me, sweetie! Madonna! Oh, Madonna!
What in the hell are you people doing? Run! Quick, move! Get over here! Everyone, move this way! Quick, to the stairs! Move!
What an incredible intro, and right after that you were thrown straight into combat. So now let's talk about the combat. On PC you press E to pick up weapons, and you right click to attack. Holding Q allows you to throw the weapon, and you press V to drop it. And there is an insane variety of weapons. Dead Rising brings to life that childhood dream you had when you thought to yourself, how cool would it be if in this game I was able to pick up anything around me and use it as a weapon. I wish I had the ability to just throw this cash register at the enemy. In this game, that vision has been brought to life, as you can pick up just about anything and use it as a weapon. Pot plants, more benches, garbage bins, cooking oil, fire extinguishers, nail guns, electric guitars, mannequins, display bottles, garden shovels, broomsticks, rocks from the floor, shopping carts, lawnmowers, propane tanks, water guns, baseball bats, skateboards, soccer balls, planks of wood, lead pipes, step ladders, store displays, even fallen limbs from the zombies themselves, and more. You name it, it's probably a weapon in this game, and the freedom and realism doesn't just stop there, as it embodies the philosophy of this game. Are you stuck in a store and don't want to use the front door? Just break the display glass and walk out. Want a safe place to get out of richer zombies? Just climb on top of the shopping equipment. Want to kill one of your fellow survivors? Go ahead, no one is going to hold you responsible. This is a game where you are surviving a zombie apocalypse whilst being trapped in a shopping center, and the game really wanted to create that feeling and have it come to life. Ever wanted to just walk into a store and wear their clothing for free? You can do that here. And you can wear just about anything. Glasses, dyed hair, fancy suits, women's clothing, children's clothing, superhero costumes. You can dress up Frank West however you desire. And you can wear just about anything. This shopping store is even called In the Closet, and all their items are... yeah, that's pretty cool. We're going back to the combat, and the variety of weapons in this game is not just novelty, as each weapon gives the impression that each serve different purposes. They all have a range of different stats, all centered around damage, durability, and range of attack, like how pot plants do little damage and only last one attack. Meanwhile, golf clubs last 30 hits but can only attack one enemy at a time. But baseball bats hit multiple enemies and last for 38 hits, while sickles kill zombies with just one hit, but can only attack one enemy at a time and has a durability of 30 hits. And all weapons will flash when they have low durability. Yet despite the variation in weapons, almost all of them have low durability, which the game implements to foster this sense of exploration and experimentation, as players are encouraged to frequently switch between weapons and make use of whatever tools they have available, reinforcing the survival theme of the zombie apocalypse the game tries to portray. Also, all weapons can fall into two types: those that can be stored in your inventory and those that can't. Chainsaws, lawnmowers, mowers, and steel racks are weapons that are too big to be stored in your inventory, but can be used as powerful situational weapons when found nearby, and this works in the game's favor, seeing as these weapons often produce high amounts of damage with a wide range of effect. Otherwise, you have to use an item from your inventory, allowing you to switch between weapons whenever necessary. Healing items in the form of food can also be stored in your inventory, and also come in a diverse variety such as cabbage, yogurt, cookies, raw meat, and you get the point. And some food give back more health than others, like how cabbage and baguettes only give back 1 health bar, whilst wine and orange juice give back heaps more, making them more desirable. Mechanically, items always spawn in the same spots they were originally found, so just leaving any area and returning resets all items and enemies. This mechanic encourages players to memorize the layouts of each zone, rewarding them with the predictability of respawnable items. And seeing as items are the only way to heal in this game, it makes seeking food items to heal a core component of this game. You can also get random items from breaking cardboard boxes and garbage cans, but most of the items found are pretty garbage themselves. And the added difficulty of trying to carry weapons and food can become cumbersome with a small inventory, which is why leveling up is another important aspect of the game. Leveling up makes you move faster, hit harder, and throw further, but not just that, it can also increase your inventory slots and reward you with more health. It can also give you a new skill which helps you in combat. Early on you can unlock new skills like the jump kick to hit zombies out of the way, or the zombie ride which allows you to climb on top of zombies and escape. The more you level up, the more skills you can earn. And they serve as a means to escape from crowds of zombies, as you don't normally just want to waste your time fighting zombies, but you instead try to avoid confrontations with them. But you might be wondering, how do you level up? Well, you level up with prestigious points, often abbreviated to PP. How do you gain PP? Numerous things. Simply killing enemies, even using the previously mentioned skills on enemies help gain PP, simply taking pictures gain PP, and doing so with one or more of the following genres gain more PP. Genres like horror, brutality, erotica, and you can gain more PP in the pictures usually by featuring multiple interesting things going on at once, or by being close up to the subject of interest. The photographic system in the game is rather complex and something I won't go fully into in this video, but there is a number of things you can do to gain PP. Even just completing the main storyline gives you heaps of PP. By far one of the most rewarding ways to gain PP is through the side missions. There are typically 2 types of side missions. One which involves you confronting an enemy, typically someone who is cracked under the pressure of the zombie apocalypse and has become a psychopath and has started harming innocent people. The other type is when you found another survivor trapped in the shopping center, and sometimes you'll even struggle to convince the person to come with you to the safe zone. So the game rewards you PP for just having them join you, and gives you even more if you manage to make it to the safe zone with the survivor. And you'll sometimes be rescuing multiple people, which rewards you with a lot of PP. But completing all the side missions is an extremely difficult task, and some might even claim it's impossible on your first attempt, and that's thanks to one of the game's core components, time. If you can remember, this game is all about trying to solve the mystery of the zombie outbreak. The game even starts on the 19th of September at exactly 12 PM in the afternoon, and from that point onwards, the game's internal timer has started. 72 hours from this point onwards, you must solve the mystery of the zombies and make it back to the helipad at exactly September 22nd at 12 PM in order to complete the game. And so time serves as a real reminder of the game's end goal for Frank West. Even moving from one zone to another, the game will always remind you of the time until helicopter arrival. You can also check your watch, which accurately tells you the time and also shows you what missions you have available. The main story mission will always appear at the top, while side missions will always appear below in the order you gain them. And it also shows you how much time you have left until the mission disappears for good. As time is such a crucial aspect of this game, certain missions won't even start until a particular time is met. The mission will appear grayed out and you must wait until that in-game time is reached in order to start the mission. And seeing as 5 real-time minutes is 1 in-game hour, meaning the 72 in-game hours will go by in just 6 real-time hours. But that is not how long the game will take you to complete. Even for me, my real-time hours spent in the game is more than double that of the presumed 6 hours. And there is this unfortunate realization that there are certain survivors who you'll probably probably never get to save, thanks to the complex system of time in this game, which pushed me to always be on edge, to never linger around or waste any time. I normally like to take my time in games, as I always try to observe and look out for small details within games. But thanks to the brutal nature of this game, I always felt on edge and running behind on time. I always felt like I needed to be somewhere and accomplish it as fast as possible. The impossible time demand this game sets for first time players is ruthless, but it's also what made me grow an appreciation of it as well, as I could already see the potential for replayability the game was setting up. And with the crazy combat and zany characters, it's easy to see why this game quickly won people over and fermented itself in our memories, as the progress in this game depends on player agency rather than scripted story events, which encourages exploration and experimentation instead of just passively burning through the storyline. So you can still burn through the storyline if you want, however you'll be greatly rewarded for completing the side missions, seeing as main story events, side missions and survivor encounters are all scheduled. They will all occur whether or not the player is present, as a zombie outbreak isn't just going to sit around and wait for the player to come in and save the day. Also, random side note, but I actually started playing this game on September 18th and finished it 3 real days later, which really made me wig out. Such a crazy coincidence. But let's head back to where we last left off, with the crazy old man and rushing to the stairs to save our lives, as we are straight away thrown into combat and seeing all the previous survivors we just met die one by one as their names appear on the center of the screen. I rush over to the stairs to escape, and a cutscene plays where the remaining survivors agree to seal off the door to stop zombies from entering, and it now appears that us four are all that remain from the encounter. Alright, so looking at the remaining survivors, Brad and Jessica appear to be working together. Brad hastily leaves and Frank begins questioning Jessica on what's going on. She refuses to answer any of our questions, and in fact she doesn't even shake our hand when first meeting her. And seeing as we have so many unanswered questions, this kind of pisses us off. The other survivor is an older guy named Otis, and the 4 of us are safe for now in the security room, seeing as the door is sealed shut and the only way out is through the air ducts which leads to the roof. So this room acts as a safe zone in the game where you'll never have to worry about combat, and any survivors are saved when you bring them here. This room also has one of the only few save spots in the game, as you can only save at this couch or by visiting any bathrooms to take a piss in the urinals. These are the only moments you can save your game, and you'll see them marked on the map with a big S. Also in this room, Otis will always be on the security cameras as he tries to keep an eye out for what's going on in the shopping center, and if he sees anything out of the ordinary, he informs us through our trance receiver. And this is how we get informed on side missions. We get a call from Otis and he informs us of the situation. But Otis is actually an unvoiced character. Never do we hear him talk in the game. All his lines of dialogue are just that, lines of text you need to read in order to gain the side mission information. And seeing as he just calls you at random moments, you won't always be paying attention to what he just told us. But regardless, we will gain a new mission to add to our list. Yet there is no way to know the context if you weren't paying attention. If Otis's dialogue was voiced, I wouldn't have to focus in order to gain the context for the side missions. But because the game didn't bother voicing these lines of text, I was left unsure what most of the side missions were about, and would normally just assume what it would be based off from its name. Is this all the context the game gives you after the call? But anyway, going through the air ducts leads to the roof like I previously mentioned, and your first time on the roof you'll find an elevator which leads back to the shopping center. But you will also run into an old man named Jeff. Talking to him reveals that he's looking for his wife Natalie, and this is the first survivor you will interact with in the game. From here you learn the mechanics of saving survivors. Firstly, you must convince the survivor that you are here to save them and have them agree to come along with you. Not all survivors will just willingly follow you just because you ask them to, as people are not just sitting around waiting for you to come in and save the day. They instead have their own goals and behaviors when interacting with you, just like Jeff, who is happy to follow you but only for the reason that we're looking for his wife. And this gives a real depth to the survivors who are just meant to be side characters in this game, and it reminds you that you were just Frank West, a photographic journalist who was nothing more than another survivor in this apocalypse. And the only reason you are special is because you didn't want to sit around in the security room and just wait for time to pass by. Instead, you wanted to understand what's going on with the zombie outbreak, and you don't mind saving some survivors along the way, just as long as they cooperate. And once you've managed to recruit them, the next challenge is bringing them to the security room, as you pass through waves of zombies to make it back to the security room. Now each survivor will respond differently depending on who they are. Typically, male survivors are aggressive and will take any weapon you give them and use it to defend themselves. And any weapon you give them will have unlimited durability. So you can give them a gun with just one bullet left and they'll magically have unlimited ammunition. But there are other types of survivors. Typically, female survivors can't be given weapons and instead will hold your hand and run with you through the crowds of zombies. And to make things not so challenging, the game makes you avoid zombies more frequently when holding their hands. Then you have the worst kind of survivor, those that are slow and need assistance. This is typically injured or elderly survivors, and saving them is always the most difficult. You can also give any survivors food in case you are worried about their health being too low. But regardless of the survivor type you are with, you will always struggle with these missions because the survivor AI is terrible. The survivors are always getting stuck and are terrible at defending themselves. They die so easy and take so long to catch up to you. What is helpful is you can point them in the location you want them to go, and they'll try their best to reach it, but they're still so unreliable. And with time being such a precious commodity, it's so easy to just give up and leave them to their fate. Luckily, Jeff is an easy survivor to save, as Natalie is found on the other side of the roof, and the route to the security room has no enemies in the way. Now, whilst it is really stupid and unrealistic that Jeff's missing wife was found on the other side of the roof, understandably the game is attempting to have the player understand the basics of the survivor side mission mechanics. And this is illustrated by Jeff's request to find his wife. And once that request is fulfilled, we journey safely to the security room where the couple will remain safe for the duration of the game. And the survivors will kinda just hang out in these rooms together. But early on in the game, the concept of the saving survivor mechanics has been taught to the player by having us complete a simple version of it with more difficult variations later on. But after saving those survivors, it gave me this false pretense that I might have been able to save the survivors from the beginning of the game. So I reloaded my save file and tried my best to see if there was any way of saving them. And after many fruitless attempts, I realized these survivors are scripted deaths, and there is nothing that can be done to save them. So moving on, we head down to the elevator where I get a call from Otis, where he tells me to check the map by pressing the F key, which is an amazing touch seeing as the original button for the map was M, but I changed it to the F key early in the game. So the fact that the game showed me the new key instead of the old key is quite impressive, as you'd be surprised at how many games do this sort of thing and would have just showed you the old button. Anyway, we continue on where we try to make our way back into the shopping center, where we spot Jessica, who claims Brad is in trouble and needs our help, and that she's on her way to help him right now. But after noticing she's injured, Frank volunteers to help, and Jessica reluctantly agrees, and she gives us her pistol. Now, whilst I do enjoy the combat in this game, the ammo capacity did annoy me, seeing as with most games when you are carrying a gun and you find a new one, it gives you more ammo as you take the mag from the new gun. But in this game you don't do that. Instead, every gun has a maximum capacity, with pistols being 30 bullets. Picking up a new weapon just adds another gun to your inventory, and I understand the game does this for the combat flow and the survival horror theme it's going for, as it constantly wants you to replace your weapons, and that's why they all have low durability. But when it came to guns, it just felt gimmicky to me. Anyway, I notice I have plenty of time to go save Brad, so I attempt one of the side missions and go save a survivor instead. A man named Ken, and turns out he's a fellow photographer, just like me. However, he's rather condescending about his ability in photography, and so his prerequisite is to take some pictures with some high PP, and he has to be the center of the image. And whilst attempting this mission, Kent goes insane. He starts running around the mall killing zombies with this unusual laugh. And all whilst demanding I take a good picture of him. And I try my hardest, but none of the pictures I take satisfy him. So I leave for now, but plan to return and continue this mission later. And as I leave, he pleads with me to continue taking pictures of him. This guy is truly obnoxious. So after all that, I catch up to Brad, who is having a shootout with Carlos. He's the guy from the very beginning of the game, if you can remember. Frank expresses his inexperience with guns to Brad, and so he gives us another pistol and points us in the direction where he wants us to go. And the battle with Carlos begins. It starts out pretty tame, but once he's around mid-health, Carlos starts shooting back more frequently, and will throw bombs at you if he sees you aiming at him, which leads to things getting pretty chaotic. But it still goes down pretty easy. Carlos escapes, and Brad thanks Frank for the help. and he reaches out his hand, but Frank doesn't shake it, which is a callback to when Jessica didn't shake our hand. Frank wants answers, but Brad mirrors Jessica and doesn't want to cooperate. But after Frank shows Brad the picture of the old man, he decides to work with us, for now. Brad reveals him and Jessica are DHS agents working for the government and are looking for that old man. Frank then reveals he took the picture at the entrance plaza and the two of us make our way over. We find the old man and turns out his name is Dr. Barnaby, and Brad is trying to save him and take him back to the security room, but he refuses to go with us unless we can secure his safety. So Brad says he'll meet us back at the security room and contact HQ and continue the case from there. So seeing as I have plenty of time left, I decide to go do some side missions. So I step outside to the park and this happens.
Loser. Get your aim right, brother.
All right, looks like we found our next contestant.
We're gonna take out that dude and snatch his old lady.
These three convicts somehow escaped and are wreaking havoc on whoever gets in their way. And also seeing as zombies are more dangerous at nighttime, it's made the park a dangerous place to be. So I quickly rescue the girl from the cutscene and we head back to the security room. And on the way back we run into Queens.
What in the hell is going on around here?
Queens are a special weapon used to kill a number of zombies at once. They have a weird aura about them, but for now they are just a useful weapon that is super effective against zombies. So we make our way back to the security room where we contact HQ, but the signal's been blocked. So Frank informs Brad and Jessica that he has a helicopter coming for his arrival 3 days from now. Brad asks if the helicopter can take himself, Jessica, and Dr. Barnaby, to which Frank agrees, so long as they tell him what's going on, and Brad promises to do so, but not right now. The next mission will be at 6 AM. So I have some free time until then. So I head back to the park and decide it's better to get it done and over with and try my best to kill the convicts. And thanks to them getting stuck, I managed to kill 2 out of 3 of them when my gun runs out of ammo and I was 1 hit away from dying. And after thinking my death was inevitable, I managed to grab the machine gun from the back of the car and use it to kill the last guy. And just like that, the car is now mine. I get an achievement and the convicts are no longer a problem I need to worry about. So wanting to tie up other loose ends, I return to Kent and try to complete his mission. And after taking many pictures of this guy, I finally took one that impressed him. And after becoming redeemed in his eyes, Kent shows us some pictures from his own collection.
Well, it's in focus. And the composition's okay, I suppose. That ain't half bad. Okay, here comes the next one, Frankie. But first, feast your eyes on my work. Now this is my most emotionally moving shot. Now this is my sexiest shot. Okay. This is my most violent shot. Check it out. Okay, here's the deal, Frankie. You gotta go out there and take even better pictures than the ones I just showed you. You think you can handle that, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, great, so now I have to take even more pictures to impress this guy. But alright. So I decide to go save some more survivors when I run into this guy named Adam. He worked as the mall clown and has gone insane due to the pressures of the apocalypse. So now we have to kill him. Shooting at him does minimal damage, so the only real way to hurt him is by shooting this balloon after he's blown it up. In the meantime, you'll dodge all his attacks whilst trying to avoid the zombies at the same time, which is a nice step up from the Carlos fight. Seeing as the same fundamentals are present with the shooting at the enemy when the time is right, whilst also avoiding his range attacks. But now you also have the added difficulty of avoiding the zombies. This increases the combat difficulty the player is already used to, which gives a nice subtle sense of progression and makes for good game design. Anyway, we defeat the clown and get the mini chainsaw, which is one of the most powerful weapons in the game. Nearby, I head to a library to save these two Japanese tourists. They don't speak any English, so I can't communicate with them. But fortunately, there is a Japanese learning book on the shelf, so I tell them, you go safe place together. And the three of us move out. I take a detour and find another survivor. But he appears injured and it takes some convincing, but he agrees to follow me to safety. But after realizing I need to support him walking, and seeing as we have a long journey back to the security room, I decide he's not worth the effort and unfortunately leave him behind to his fate. So I make it back to the security room with just the Japanese guys, which was no easy feat as these guys died on me so many times. And when a survivor dies, you get this little cutscene that plays. I even discovered this glitch where you can take a picture of them during the cutscene.
Perfect.
Anyway, we make it back to Brad and Jessica and discover someone has kidnapped the professor, so Frank and Brad head over to save him. And turns out Carlos is the one responsible, so we get into another shootout with him. But seeing as I can now use melee weapons on him, I destroy him with the mini chainsaw. We then watch Brad and Carlos shoot each other just before Carlos escapes. But now having rescued the professor, we teleport back to the security room, and now with the professor in our care, everything seems fine. Except for the fact that Brad has now become really sick, thanks to his bullet injury. So it's up to Frank to go get some medication to help him. So we head to the only grocery store in the shopping center. And once there, we run into the store owner who claims we are here to vandalize his store. Frank tries to explain we are just here for medicine, but the store owner appears to have gone insane and doesn't listen to us and instead tells us,
I don't allow vandalism in my store!
It's also at this point I stop realizing how difficult the game might be, as I can't understate this enough. The mini chainsaw is extremely overpowered. It's actually at this point I see its strength for what it truly is and decide I'll keep it in my inventory and only use it for boss battles. So with Steven now dead, he mourns the loss of his store, or at least being the manager of the store, and passes away.
Clean up! Register 6!
We then chat to the girl he was holding captive, and Frank remembers her from the beginning of the game and tries to offer assistance, but she rejects him and instead blames him for causing the apocalypse and for what happened in Santa Cabeza and storms off. Now Frank has no idea what she's talking about, just like us, but I remember it was at this point I started to feel sorry for Frank. Like, despite the fact that he is a psychopath at times.
Fantastic.
He came to this shopping center as a journalist trying to find what caused the zombie apocalypse. And since the beginning he has been helping everyone around him. He saves survivors in his spare time and helps Brad and Jessica, arguably having done most of the work for them. Yet they never return the favor and constantly promise inside information but never reveal any of it to us. And for the most part, Frank never complains and constantly offers support to all those he can. Yet despite all his effort and good nature, Frank is never compensated for his actions. So we grab the medicine for Brad and head back to the security room. We give the medication to Brad and we're told he should be fine for now. Frank mentions how he was rescuing a girl whilst getting the medicine and how she mentioned something about Santa Cabeza. This triggers the professor, who claims Santa Cabeza is the key to the mystery. He then rambles on as Jessica pushes him to reveal to us the truth about what's going on. And the professor agrees, and just before he reveals anything, Jessica pushes us out of the room and closes the door behind us. That's it. If Brad and Jessica are going to keep treating us like this, then it's time to get our information from somewhere else. And that girl from before looks like a good possible candidate. The next mission will occur at 3 PM, so let's kill some time until then. I checked my watch to see what scripts I have, and I just ran out of time for 2 of them. And this really saddens me. Not only because I let a couple survivors die, but also because I do enjoy the side missions in this game, and I now just missed out on some extra content. It's also here I learned that female zombies attack differently to male zombies. Female zombies appear to attack on a more lower part of the body as opposed to male zombies who go for your face. Nice! Always love to see game creators putting love and care into their game design. So I head back into the mall and run into Kent. He asks for the new pictures I've taken for him, and so I present them to him, and he is impressed, though he doesn't want to admit it, and so he wants one more contest, and so we'll meet back here tomorrow at noon for one more contest. And I love the look he gives us as he leaves. Very human. Kent with his massive ego has started to admire the work of another. So alright Kent, I'll see you tomorrow at noon. Next I head to the North Plaza where I find a war veteran who has gone insane. He mistakes me for Viet Cong and attempts to kill me, and the fight we have against him is brutal. Cliff hits hard and it's difficult to avoid his attacks, and because I came in with low health and was unprepared, I die a lot trying to kill him, as he hides up top throwing bombs your way and won't get down until you've shot him. And when he comes down he tries to impale you with his machete, which takes a good chunk of your health and is very hard to avoid. Then after that he gets back up the shelves and repeats the cycle, and all this whilst heavy metal music blasts in the background, which I can't play due to copyright, but the song is called Slave by the Evolutionaries if you want to look it up. And the only reason I managed to beat him was just because I stood there spamming the attack button and just managed to get lucky. After he dies we get a cutscene showing a family picture where Cliff explains he saw his granddaughter die from one of the zombies, and that's what sent him over the edge. His dying words were about how the war never ended, or at least not for him. Frank closes his eyes and leaves. For such a brutal boss fight, that was a touching cutscene. Nearby I find a gun store and was really keen on visiting it, seeing as I was looking forward to cleaning up my inventory. But as I enter we find some guy who is trying to reason with the store owner. He tells him we need guns to withstand the zombie apocalypse, but the store owner says he can't trust anyone and warns us to stay away. But the man still thinks he can be reasoned with until the store owner kills him and warns us to stay away. And right after that cutscene I get shot, and seeing as I haven't saved in a while and I just beat Cliff, which took me ages, I run out of there as fast as possible and went to the nearest toilet to save my game. I then head back and try to fight him, but my health is just too low, so I decide I'll come back later to kill him. And so I decide I'll head back to the security room when this random event appears. There appears to be some cult who have kidnapped this girl and are going to sacrifice her, until they spot me and decide I also need to be sacrificed, as I too am a non-believer. So now the cultists are a new type of enemy. They will spawn all over the shopping center just like the zombies, creating more diversity in enemies. They are pretty easy to kill seeing as they are slow, but when provoked they will run at you and explode themselves. But if you get killed by them you won't actually die. Instead you will get kidnapped by them and taken to their secret hideout. You will have lost all your clothes and all your items, and you'll have to fight a number of cultists only using the weapons you can find in that room. And seeing as my level was just too low, I wasn't able to beat them, for now. Regardless, I managed to save Jennifer, and this is when I find out you can hold hands with a survivor and quickly lead them to the security room. In this state, zombies are less likely to attack you, which makes saving survivors much more easier. But I find another survivor who is trapped inside a restaurant. He complains about being hungry, but I don't have any food on me, so I go get some and return to him. And after he's eaten, I try to head back to the security room as I want to continue the main storyline. Except I don't make it back in time and I fail the main storyline. And the game gives me a choice to reload an old save file or to give up on trying to solve the mystery, which means no more storyline missions, and I only have to worry about completing side missions. It's a nice bonus that the game gives you that option to ignore the main mission and only focus on the side missions until the helicopter arrives. But seeing as this is my first run of the game, I want to finish the storyline, so I reload a previous save file and try again until we finally make it back to the security room on time. Once we are there, we find the previous girl on the security camera and she's over at the North Plaza. So I rush over and we find her on a motorcycle and the fight with her begins. Now Isabella is a tough fight, seeing as she moves around on her motorcycle and getting getting in her way will take a decent amount of your health, so your best option is to stay off the floor and shoot at her, though she will shoot back at you. During the fight I was running low on health and decided to go visit the supermarket to heal, but doing so failed the mission for me. But I didn't mind, seeing as the gun store was on the way to the mission, and decided now was a good time to get my hands on a shotgun. So I reloaded the safe fire and went to the gun store to beat Cletus. And the fight with Cletus isn't too difficult, just as long as you came prepared. You need a good amount of ammo to kill him, seeing as he's really difficult to hit with melee weapons. You have to take cover behind the store displays and just keep shooting him whilst not trying to get shot yourself. I went in with 3 fully loaded pistols and only just managed to kill him. And after we defeat him, we get a cutscene where he claims we are crazy because we are willing to kill in order to get our hands on guns, which is clearly ironic. He then dies to a zombie and we can now finally get our hands on some powerful guns. I grab the shotgun and a sniper rifle and head over to fight Isabella, and this time she goes down effortlessly. Frank then finally questions her on what's going on, and she doesn't really give us an answer. She instead claims that we are the ones who created the zombies and that Carlito has all the answers. She says he has all the answers and it's best we talk with him. She'll bring him back here at midnight and together we can finally discuss the zombies. Isabella then also reveals she's Carlito's younger sister. Seriously, dude?
Looks like 72 yards. I can blow his head off clean from here. Can I take a shot, Dad?
Getting a headshot from here's no big deal, Jack. Think you can pull it off, Thomas?
But Daddy, he ain't no zombie. He's just a man.
Thomas! We're doing this to survive. You know that.
Using a firearm for self-defense is our God-given right as Americans, Thomas.
Come on, Thomas, shoot. Shoot him.
Shoot him, Thomas!
Said shoot him. Thomas. Now! What are you waiting for? Do it!
Unfortunately for Thomas, it is also my God-given right as an American to kill him and his entire family. And whilst doing so, I noticed that when Thomas shoots at me, he will oftentimes miss, whilst when his father shoots at me, his accuracy is much more precise. Which really humanizes these characters as the inexperienced son and the well-trained father. And I love how that is reflected within the gameplay itself through their accuracy. Regardless, these guys don't really put up much of a fight, so they die pretty easy. So I go round up any nearby survivors, and the first guy I find says he won't follow me until the family of snipers are dead, and after I tell him they are, he confirms for himself and joins me. Meanwhile, the other guy is hiding in an antique store and doesn't want to leave and has kinda given up all hope. In fact, it takes a lot of convincing, but he finally agrees to join me and we make it back to the security room, where we find the usuals, Brad, Jessica, and the professor, and they finally reveal the long-awaited secret behind the zombies. Turns out these people have taken drugs. They took drugs and ended up as zombies, and Santa Cabeza is the center of the drug operation. The drug cartel and the government are aware of this situation. Frank questions the professor and he reassures us that he's analyzed the drug in question and has reported his findings to the government himself. And now he wishes for nothing more than to leave this place. So I guess that's it. Mystery solved. But I still have that meeting with Isabella tonight at the North Plaza, but I have some time to kill, so I go find some survivors. I find a woman named Jolie hiding in a store who says she's happy to follow me to the safe room, but also wants me to go save her friend Rachel, who's hiding in another store upstairs. So I rush up the stairs without Jolie to find Rachel, but when I find her she doesn't trust me and refuses to follow me. So I go grab Jolie and have them chat together, and then she finally believes me and agrees to come with me. I really enjoy seeing all the new prerequisites the game comes up with for the survivors, and I enjoy the slow sense of progression as each new survivor slowly feels harder to convince. Regardless, we make it back to the security room and I rush over to the North Plaza to meet with Isabella, only to find her injured. She claims she tried to convince her older brother Carlito, but he refused, got mad and accidentally shot her. So we have to carry Isabella all the way back to the security room. And just outside the room we find a man named Kendall, which is an interesting name name for a man, but he's got a shotgun and is a survivor NPC. So I ask him to join me to the security room and he happily agrees. We make it back and Frank informs the group that she is Carlito's younger sister and was also shot by him. Brad is happy to keep her in our custody and wants to question her as soon as she wakes up. The next mission is at 3 AM and I surprisingly have no side missions to pursue, so I decide to go stock up on some items. I head to the food court to grab some wine, but when I make it there I find a drunk man who appears to be a survivor I can rescue. This initially caught me off guard, seeing as all my previous side missions were scoops that Otis had informed me of, but this was the second time I just had a random encounter that Otis did not inform me of. Regardless, I tell the drunk man I'm happy to escort him back to the safe room, but obviously being drunk, he doesn't believe me and wastes my time, so I give up on trying to convince him and just leave. I go grab the second item I was after, the mini chainsaw, and decide to head back to the security room, but as I was returning I saw the drunk man and asked him for a second time if he wants to join me, and this time he agrees, so I had to leave and return to the area in order to convince him. So we make it back just in time as Isabella has woken up and Brad begins to interrogate her, and this is when Isabella reveals to us the real truth behind the zombies. It's not caused by a drug but instead by wasps that were created in a research facility, and the man in charge was Dr. Barnaby. He then bursts out of nowhere and appears to be attacking Jessica as a zombie. We save Jessica and question Dr. Barnaby if what Isabella says is true, and he admits that the government was conducting tests on zombies. The original intent was to mass produce cattle in order to feed America's growing demand for meat consumption, but they accidentally created zombie livestock and the drug trade story was just a cover-up. Dr. Barnaby then dies and is exposed as a zombie. Isabella then reveals that she is from Seneca Baza and that's where the research facility was located. The wasps escaped from the labs and turned the locals into zombies. The military then came and killed everyone in order to hide their atrocities. Brad then points out how the rebels might actually be retaliating because of the cruel government cover-up, but for some reason still isn't convinced and now wants nothing more than to leave this place and discover the truth later. Isabella is then worried Jessica may have been bitten by Dr. Barnaby. She claims to be a medical technician and begins examining her. The next mission is at 11 AM. I once again have no side missions, so I continue focusing on stocking up my inventory. I decide I have enough time to head to the North Plaza and get some guns, but when I make it to the gun store I randomly find 3 survivors who start shooting at me upon entry. I rush out and the group apologize as they thought I was a zombie. I enter back in and explain to them that I am here to rescue them. They don't believe me and want to see photographic proof of the entrance to the safe room. I realize I don't have enough time to go back to the security room, take the picture, then come back to the gun store, so I come up with a better idea and just reload my previous save file. I take a picture of the entrance just before going to see them and now make my way over. Unfortunately, cultists spawn right outside the gun store and they manage to kidnap me. I appear at their hideout and this time try to kill all of them with just a stepladder and a sword, but this time I manage to beat them and finally manage to escape. I make it outside for the first time and it appears that I'm at the park. However, getting kidnapped by them makes you lose all your clothes and items, and the only items you will now have is the items you made it out of that room with. And seeing as losing all my items is a fate worse than death, I reload the previous save file and head back to the gun room. But this time I actually make it back and show the group my picture and they finally agree to join me. I grab some guns and the 4 of us journey back to the security room, and once we've returned I notice I have a new side mission from Otis, and seeing as I have nothing else to do, I go complete it. And it's another psychopath mission where some long-haired guy is just paranoid about people coming to laugh at him.
Please stop! What have we ever doing?
You do it all the time! You look at me and laugh! Who's there? Stay back! Stay back! Get any closer and I'll light this place up! I suppose you came here to laugh at me too!
He's not too difficult to defeat. Paul will run around the mall throwing and dropping Molotov cocktails which are pretty hard to avoid. But seeing as I now have a large health pool thanks to my level, I defeat Paul fairly easily. We then get a cutscene of Paul accidentally lighting himself on fire. So we can now choose to let him die, or we can use the fire extinguisher to save him. I choose to save him. But whilst we leave the area, we randomly find another survivor who decides to tag along. We make it back to the security room, and then I get another side mission. One of the survivors wants some wine, and so I decide to go get some for him. And after I've grabbed it, seeing as the mini chainsaw is nearby, I decide to go get one of those as well. And whilst doing so, I spot a survivor. Another random survivor Otis didn't inform me of, which appears to be happening a lot more frequently on the third in-game day. But little did I know trying to save Suzanne would be one of the most difficult missions I perform in this game. First of all, Suzanne is slow, so holding her hand is essential. But the holding hand mechanic isn't really good, seeing as you'll be facing the wrong way sometimes, and when turning around, Suzanne will just let go of your hand. Actually, it feels like she's constantly letting go of your hand. Second of all, the game increases the difficulty as you progress through it. One of the ways it does this is by increasing the amount of zombies that spawn within areas, which is a brilliant subtle way to increase the difficulty whilst progressing throughout the game. But whilst I alone could get through the crowds of zombies, it's extremely difficult to get Suzanne through these crowds alive. And to make matters worse, the time for my next main story mission is running out. I fail so many times simply because I can't make it back in time with Suzanne. I'm stuck on this mission for a good couple hours, and it feels like there is nothing I can do to make this easier for myself. But after many attempts, I finally managed to escape the mall with Suzanne and make it to the pathway which leads to the security room. But after seeing how much time I have remaining, I panic, thinking I'm gonna run out of time again and abandon Suzanne. I just give up and decide it's impossible to save her, and the main storyline is my real objective at the end of the day. So I make it to the security room alone and find Brad and Jessica worried. When asked what's going on, Isabella explains that Carlito has informed them that he's going to use his last resort and plans on ending it all, which is code for he's going to blow up the mall using the underground bombs which will kill us all. And it will also send parasitic larvae into the atmosphere after its detonation, as if exploding the whole shopping center wasn't enough. So it's another Frank and Brad duo adventure. But before any of that happens, I find Suzanne still alive, which surprised me, seeing as I thought the game would have killed her by now. But seeing as she isn't dead, I of course escort her to the safe room. And whilst doing so, I remember hearing Carlito over the speaker talking about his last resort and ending it all, which is a subtle event that occurs whether you're paying attention or not. And what's nice is it's actually voiced.
I can't.
So I save Suzanne and give the wine to Floyd as requested. And now I can finally go stop the bombs. Until I'm interrupted by the Kent mission I forgot all about. We find Kent trying to turn someone into a zombie and document the transformation. But Frank kills the larvae and our fight with Kent begins. Unfortunately for Kent, I have a couple mini chainsaws in my inventory, and so he dies really easy. We then get a cutscene where Kent is dying and asks Frank to take his picture. That's beautiful. But Frank refuses and he unties the hostage and he agrees to follow me to the safe room. And whilst doing so, I get a call from Otis explaining how Kendall has created a mutiny among the survivors in his room and it's up to us to solve the issue. And so I return to the safe room and see Kendall leading a revolt among the people. She has doubts the helicopter will even arrive and has led others to question the reality of the supposed helicopter. But Frank reminds everyone it's scheduled to arrive tomorrow at noon. And if it doesn't arrive by that time, then they are free to do whatever they want with themselves. Kendall quickly hears the truth in our words and agrees to wait until tomorrow at noon. And just like that, crisis averted. You know, it's only a small easy mission, but it's missions like these that remind you how human the characters really are. But now with all that sorted, we head urgently to the bombs, and whilst doing so, the directional arrow, which has normally been very reliable throughout the game, starts malfunctioning on me. But I managed to make it to the car park and into the underground tunnels. And this place is scary. Dark, quiet, and nothing but zombies for as far as the eye can see. What's worse is there are no items here to pick up and use. The only way you are going to survive this place is by making use of all the items you have in your inventory. So I set off in search of the bomb, and after a long and difficult walk, I finally get to the bomb where I disarm it and see it say 4 remaining. And it was at this point I started to panic. The underground tunnels are full of zombies, and just trying to reach this one bomb took a little under half my health. But it also took so much time to reach. I don't know how on earth I'm going to complete this mission. I desperately try to see if I can get in and drive the van, but the game won't let me. So I head off for the second bomb when Carlito comes out of nowhere driving a van and starts trying to hit me with it. And his UI feels ruthless and very persistent. Seriously, the amount of times this thing would just come out of nowhere and start trying to kill me felt like I was in a horror film. And I was already struggling with just the zombies. But now this mission feels impossible as I died just having reached the second bomb. So I reload my save file, and during my second attempt I make it to the car park and notice an actual car alongside a motorbike. So I realize my silly little mistake and decide to take the car with me into the underground tunnels until I realize I can't, as this barricade is blocking my entrance. So I have one more attempt without any vehicles, and of course die again. So this time I use the motorbike past the barricade and make it to the first bomb in no time. Then I reach the second bomb when Carlito shows up, destroys my motorbike and starts throwing bombs at me. I try to take cover behind the parked van, but it doesn't have any hitbox and the bomb just goes straight through it. Yeah, I can't just walk through it for some reason. So now I have to disarm this bomb and continue with the rest of the other bombs on foot. Thankfully you can scare Carlito away if you hit him enough times. But I quickly realize this mission isn't too difficult, but it becomes extremely hard when you've lost your vehicle. So realistically all I have to do is try to keep the motorbike with me for as long as possible. But that's not too easy, seeing as Carlito completely destroys the motorbike if he hits it with his van or one of his bombs. Also, if I hit too many zombies while on the motorbike, it'll just break. So I have to be as careful as possible when handling the motorbike. And to make matters worse, when I die and reload the save file, I have to travel from the security room to the car park. And the distance is a long one, and you need to access the park in order to reach it. And this time, for some reason, the convicts I killed at the very beginning of the game are back. How are they still alive if I already killed them? Do they just randomly respawn for no particular reason? Either way, I'm not a big fan of this, mostly because the game portrays itself to be pretty realistic, but having respawnable characters breaks that illusion, because why am I fighting these guys when they should already be dead? Also, keeping in mind the convicts are the only named characters that respawn. But after many long attempts, I eventually managed to make it to the third bomb when Carlito shows up, destroys my bike, and I begin shooting him like normal, as I didn't think I could hurt him inside the van with melee attacks. But this time I try one and the attack actually lands. So now, knowing I can harm him with my mini chainsaw, I quickly get rid of him. And then we get a cutscene where Carlito crashes the van. Brad shows up and tells Frank to focus on the bombs and he'll focus on chasing Carlito. We agree and I grab the last two bombs, no problem. Thankfully the last bomb is close to the exit and I check to see if vehicles respawn like all other items in this game. And they do. So I hop on a motorbike, easily grab the last bomb and make it out of the underground tunnels with all the bombs. And after that's been taken care of, we get a call from Jessica and head back to the security room. The next mission is at 5 PM. Meanwhile, Brad is having a shootout with Carlito. And with few bullets remaining, he rushes Carlito, who gets shot. They proceed to have a fist fight, and Carlito stabs Brad and manages to trap him in the underground tunnels. Brad, now trapped, injured, and surrounded by zombies, realizes his fate is sealed, and from this point onwards, we never see him again. As for Frank, I have one side mission to complete, which is rescuing this woman. So I find her and she tells me she's been bitten, and is beyond saving. We try to convince her it's not that big a deal, and so we take her to the security room. From there, Jessica reaffirms that as soon as Brad catches Carlito, everything should be taken care of. But Frank is still worried, believing that this isn't the end of Carlito. So he asks Isabella if Carlito has any more tricks up his sleeve. And she says she's unsure, but is happy to take Frank to Carlito's hideout, where his computer is located. So he agrees and we journey over. But then I get some glitch where it tells me 2 survivors that never spawned in have now died. And it's referring to these 2 women who are shown in this cutscene, with Paul the paranoid pyromaniac. And speaking of Paul, he calls me over to show me that he has Molotov cocktails that I can take and use from him, and that he has an unlimited supply, which is nice. Anyway, we head over to that secret hideout with Isabella by our side. I try calling her over like she's a survivor, but it doesn't work. Her UI is different to that of a survivor, and instead she is leading the way to the hideout, but armed with a hand pistol, so she isn't slowing me down too much, although it still feels like I'm running around for her sometimes. Regardless, we make it to the hideout, which is located next to the gun store in the North Plaza. Isabella finds the laptop she was referring to but can't access it as she doesn't know the password. So she begins theorizing on what it could be when Jessica calls and asks us to come back to the security room. So now we have to go back to the other side of the map. But it's here I notice I can save in this room. And seeing as it's right next to the gun store, that makes getting sniper rifles and shotguns much easier, as I can now just enter and leave this room to have them respawn. But I just grab one shotgun for now and head over to see Jessica. And as I enter the park, I see I only have 15 hours and 48 minutes until the helicopter arrives, which is such a surreal feeling to know that I am almost done with this game. So I make it to Jessica and she shows me some video on the monitor of Carlito getting dragged into some room by a large man, which is obviously strange, so I decide to go check it out. But before that, I brought a handgun as a request for one of the survivors, and it turns out to be the girl I recently saved who thought she was bitten by a zombie. She tells me she's worried she might turn and will only use it if she feels the need. I, however, feel kind of wrong for just giving it to her, so I refuse at first. But after noticing the game rewards me for giving it to her, I just let her keep it. But I feel wrong about it. I just personally didn't like how the game handled this mission. I also bump into Floyd, who was the guy I got the wine for, and seeing as this made him drop it on the floor, the game let me pick it up and keep it in my inventory, which is cool. Very convenient. But now I go to save Carlito, which leads me back to the underground tunnels, and I enter the warehouse he's in. There we find his kidnapper and a piece of juicy fresh meat.
Ah, a customer.
That guy over there. I mean, that meat.
Oh, this is good meat, huh? I just got it in here. It's fresh.
After the butcher refuses to give us his meat, we get into a quick alteration where my mini chainsaw does a perfect job finishing him off, and he dies. So we save Carlito, who appears to be dying. Frank exposes the fact that Isabella is now on our side and is trying to access his computer to find his secrets, but we just don't know the password and was hoping Carlito would be nice enough to share it with us. Carlito then monologues about how his life purpose was to avenge the people from his hometown of Santa Cabeza, and how the atrocities committed against his town were all just for fat American bellies.
My purpose in life has been to get revenge for what you people did to Santa Cabeza, to my hometown. Why? Why was your meat so much more important to you than human life? Why? Why did my people have to die to feed your fat bellies?
That doesn't excuse what you've done. But I promise, the Santa Cabeza story will be told. But I need the password. Hey. Hey! Hey! Stay with me! Give me the computer's password!
Hey. Aren't zombies great? I mean, all they do is eat, and eat, and eat, growing in number. Just like you good, red, white, and blue Americans. It's not over. Not yet.
Speak! Speak, damn it! What do you mean it's not over?
I'm sorry, Isabella. Give this to my sister.
next mission will be at 10 PM, and it will be the final main storyline mission in the game. I receive a call from Isabella and reflect on how Dead Rising has continuously surprised me with its characters' complexities, as every main character, and even some of the side characters, feel humanly flawed. They feel morally grey. Take Carlito for example, who is the main antagonist throughout the game. Yet, he's not evil for the sake of being evil. Instead, Carlito believes he is justified in his actions, as no one ever thinks they are the bad guy. Everyone is the hero in their own minds, as there are no truly evil people, only people who believe they are justified in committing evil actions for good intentions. And that's why Carlito, being a victim of the government cover-up in his hometown, made him feel vindicated in his actions as he seeks to bring justice for those innocent lives lost at Santa Cabeza. At face value, Dead Rising was never a game I expected to have characters with such depth, but I make it back to Isabella, where Frank reveals Carlito's death, and he sympathizes with her. And I'll be honest, this scene is a little touching, but mostly awkward, and I'm not sure if that was the game's intentions, as Frank is a pretty weird guy, and the game definitely does have a sense of humor, but if I'm being honest, it didn't feel intentional. Regardless, Isabella looks at the locket Carlito gave, and sees her parents, which leads her to try Pachamama as the password, and it works. She claims it means Mother Earth, and it was something her parents would say a lot, and after looking into it, Pachamama is a real South American goddess of Mother Earth, which is pretty cool. And now, just like that, the main storyline has been completed. I save my game and check to see if I have any more missions, but I don't. Wasn't really sure what I should do next, until I suddenly get a call from Jessica, who tells me she's finally able to contact the DHS headquarters, seeing as Isabella unlocked the laptop and disabled the jamming device. So now Jessica will call HQ and let them know of the emergency situation going on, and the government will send its troops to come save us all, and the game will finally come to a happy ending. And then she calls back like 1 minute later and reveals to us how the conversation with HQ went down.
Frank, it's over. HQ's decided to ignore us.
What? What do you mean, ignore us?
I contacted headquarters, but the government has decided to deny all knowledge of what happened here. Special forces will arrive for cleanup at midnight. They'll take everyone out. Zombies, people, everyone.
That was terrifying. The reality that the military may now be arriving and planning to wipe us all out confuses me. And just before I enter the security room, the military have already shown up, and they've decided to let Jessica live, so long as she promises to keep her mouth shut. But whilst they are talking it over, Jessica suddenly turns into a zombie and kills the military personnel. So I finally enter the security room and find the 2 dead military guys, and Jessica now zombified. I check all the rooms and find the survivors have disappeared. I also check the desk and find a note left by Otis. It appears he's still alive, and that if he ever sees us again, he owes us a drink. I feel a little better knowing Otis managed to make it out alive, but at this point in time, I am truly surprised and confused. Jessica and Brad are now gone, along with all the survivors, and I truly have no idea what's going to happen next, seeing as Isabella is the only person I have left, alongside Frank of course. I rush back to reunite with her. There is 12 hours and 15 minutes left until the helicopter arrives, and we have already discovered the mystery of the zombie origin. So now all I care about now is getting Frank and Isabella on that helicopter and getting out of here. So the only thing on my mind is getting back to Isabella. But then I receive a random cutscene. The military have finally arrived and their plan to wipe out everything is now in full effect. They truly want to leave behind nothing, as they are shown slaughtering zombies. The game then cuts back to me, and I return to the shopping center, and I see zombies like usual, until I hear the sound of automatic gunfire in the distance, and it freaks me out, and I normally take the park route over to the North Plaza, seeing as it's the fastest route. But after hearing those gunshots, I ran the other direction, and as I travel, I notice dead zombies laying on the floor, and I just pray I don't encounter any special forces. I head over to the food plaza to stock up on some wine, but just before I enter, I'm discovered by the military, who start destroying me. But I manage to enter the North Plaza, and I need to kill 2 military guys in order to reach the wine stockpile. So I surprise attack them with my mini chainsaw, and they die no problem. I pick up their machine guns, and it was at this point I realized, if I am to survive this, the only 3 things I'm allowed to keep in my inventory is wine, mini chainsaws, and machine guns. And seeing as mini chainsaws are the best weapon and are hard to get a hold of, I fill my inventory with wine and go grab my 3rd mini chainsaw. After that, I safely make it back to Isabella. We find Isabella and she appears aware of the situation. She knows this is nothing more than a repeat of Santa Cabeza, a government unwilling to admit its wrongs and instead chooses to quietly cover it up. But with around 10 hours left until the helicopter arrives, I have no idea how to pass the time. But seeing as I'm at the North Plaza, I know the supermarket is nearby, and I suppose it's probably a safe place to be, seeing as it's one of the only few places with unlimited food items. So I assume it's probably my best option for now. So I make my way over to heal up a little bit, until I'm unsurprisingly harassed by the military. But I'm now surrounded by unlimited food, and after killing one of the special forces, they drop a machine gun full of ammo, and I managed to kill all the guys in the shop and then fully heal up. And seeing as that was actually a pretty fun challenge, I leave the store and return to have all the military guys respawn, and I get to fight them all over again, and I never need to worry about my health as I'm in the supermarket and I'm surrounded by unlimited food, and I don't have to worry about weapons. Seeing as after I kill one of the special forces, they drop a fully loaded machine gun. And I also love seeing the military guys struggle trying to kill me and the zombies that surround them. And now all of a sudden this game goes from survival horror to 3rd-person shooter. And I'm not complaining. I was actually having a really fun time, just leaving and returning to the supermarket to kill all the special forces, then healing up and doing it all over again. And I kept leveling up so much whilst doing this. I was actually having such a fun time. Although it was at this point I did find it a little unrealistic how special forces were so incompetent that they were getting absolutely destroyed by some random journalist. However, this one time I got a little cocky and the military did manage to kill me. But surprisingly I didn't die. Instead I just got kidnapped by them. I wake up in their helicopter, almost naked and tied up. That's pretty kinky. And when I attempt to untie myself and escape, one of the special forces unit rushes over and beats the hell out of me until I go back to being unconscious. After some hours pass by, I reawaken and can attempt to escape once more. However, I fail for a 2nd time and get put back to sleep again. I wake back up and see I only have 39 minutes left until the helicopter arrives, and I can hear my trance receiver ringing like crazy. Realizing this is probably my last chance, I try my best and this time manage to escape and even manage to answer the call, which is from Jessica telling me to come back to the hideout. However, I have lost all my clothes and inventory, similar to when the cultists kidnapped me, and seeing as I had such a perfect inventory, I reload my file and try again. This time I keep doing the supermarket strategy, but I make sure to never die, and I instead successfully keep killing the special forces again and again and again and again. I even begin to notice as time goes by and I re-enter the store, there appears to be less and less zombies each time I re-enter, as the military appear to actually be doing their job and killing all the zombies. Pretty soon the whole place becomes empty, just now filled with special force units and the occasional zombies. But during that time I managed to go from level 31 to level 37, which is really nice, and I had a fun time doing it. It was such a nice change of pace. So if anyone is unsure on what to do in those 10 hours, I really recommend that strategy. But around 1.5 hours left until the helicopter arrives, I get a call from Isabella who tells me to return to the hideout, so I return to her. And we get a cutscene showing the special forces have finally completed their mission. It appears all the zombies have been wiped from this area. We then get a close-up of their leader, a man with a large scar on his face. And yes, this is foreshadowing. And that's it. 1 hour and 28 minutes until the helicopter arrives. I speak with Isabella and she refuses to come with me. It saddens me, but I don't have any time left to spare. The helicopter is coming soon and I need to be there when it arrives. So I take my leave and head back to where it all began, the helipad rooftop. As I journey over, I find the shopping center is completely empty. There's nothing but piles of dead zombies everywhere. It's sort of eerie, but peaceful at the same time. I make it back to the security room and find the door that was sealed shut from the beginning of the game is now able to open, and it feels so strange seeing the security room empty like this. No Brad, no Jessica, no Otis, no survivors. I truly never thought the game would escalate into this, but the final hour is now upon us. So I head to the rooftop and wait it out, eager to reunite with my old friend and bring an end to this insane adventure.
I'll be damned. He's still alive. That son of a bitch made it. That must mean he got his scoop. I can't wait to get my share of the take. Woo! Yeah! All right, you just hang tight, buddy. I'm on my way. Huh?
Hey! 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 I'm over here!
I see you, buddy! I see you! Yeah! I'm on my way! Yeah, you did it! You did it! Yeah, yeah!
What the hell? That can't be how the game ends, right? And then I see it. Ending A. I got ending A. Was that the good ending? Surely not. I go to the next panel and see all the survivors that you were able to save in the game. I see all those I failed have been grayed out. And I notice Frank, Jessica, and Brad's name and faces have all been grayed out, whilst Otis isn't. And it was at this point I realized I had failed the game. Or so I thought. In reality, ending A can only be achieved through completing the main storyline of the game, and there is another 5 alternate endings from B to F. And some of the other endings aren't even that bad, like ending B where the pilot actually makes it to the helipad and saves Frank, along with Jessica, Otis, and all the other survivors. But you'll never discover the truth about the zombie origin, as this ending can only be achieved by failing the main storyline, and then just focusing all your time on completing side missions until the helicopter arrives, which is actually an option the game allows you to do. You also got ending E, which is exactly the same as ending B, except Frank doesn't leave with the group, as this ending is only achieved by failing the main storyline and not making it to the helipad on time. You also have ending C, which appears to be the worst one, as Frank never makes it back in time and the pilot dies to a zombie as well. But all things considered, ending A appears to be the most canon ending, and the only one which unlocks extra content after beating the main storyline, as you unlock overtime mode after beating it, and it picks up right where we left off, as the main game mode is named 72 hours, which of course is in reference to the 72 hours you have in order to discover the mystery of the zombie outbreak. And as I just mentioned, only if you manage to discover the mystery of the zombies by completing the main story, you will only ever get ending A. And what a roller coaster that ending was. I still remember how I felt watching that scene, waiting for the helicopter to arrive, only for nothing to happen. No one comes to save us. The slow realization that the pilot has abandoned us, and that we are still stranded in this shopping center. And what a punch to the gut. That whole journey we went on, only for it to end like this. The whole theme of this game is to find the mystery and return to this exact location after 72 hours. It's so burnt into its identity that even moving from zone to zone, it shows you the exact time you have until you must return. The entire brutal nature of this game centered around the time concept, concluding itself with the return of the helicopter, only for it to never return. What a cruel joke. And just before all our hope is shattered, we see this guy, and we discover it was nothing more than a mere misunderstanding. As Frank hears the helicopter approaching from the distance, we are all fed that sense of hope, and even reaffirming us with his little "I see you buddy," until we see the zombie in the helicopter, and we watch him go down with the helicopter. And now Frank gives up, and as if it couldn't get any worse, it appears special forces have missed a few zombies, and they emerge, looking to feed their appetite. And this is where overtime mode continues from. Isabella manages to save us, and take us back to the hideout, and reveals that Frank must have gotten infected somehow, and will soon turn into a zombie. But he still has some time, seeing as the time between infection and zombification differs greatly from person to person, and Frank, being a very resilient person, appears to have a lot of time before he turns. But seeing as he will eventually turn, the two of them then think about what they should do next.
What if there was some way to impede the infection? If we could extract and administer a large dose of hormones from the corpus allatum of an adult queen, it would potentially hinder the growth of the larva in your blood, retarding the zombification process.
Hang on a sec.
Yeah, hang on a sec. Did she just say retarding? Is that even a real word? Ah, yeah, looks like it is a real word. Apparently it means to slow down or delay something. Interesting. Alright, well, let's move on. All Isabella is trying to say here is that she believes she can create an antidote to save Frank, and all she needs is this extensive list of items. So it's up to Frank to run around the mall and gather them all. So I head out into the shopping center once again, only to discover the military are back, despite the fact the shopping is void of zombies. Until I head out into the park and see all the zombies. And the loading zone timer now shows me the time until zombification, as that is the new priority in this game mode. On one hand, I'm glad the story is continuing from the presumed end of the helicopter arrival, as the story was paced perfectly and I assumed it was just going to end there. But I'm happy we are given more content. But on the other hand, it feels slightly rushed, as it feels like they rushed to return all the enemies from the previous mode without creating a narrative for doing so. Like, how did this many zombies appear when the mall was literally void of them? Sure, I can understand the special forces missing 1 or 2 on the rooftop, but how did this many reappear again? Also, why are the military back? when we just saw them leave? When did they return? Why did they return? Was it the reappearing zombies? Or was it just the game trying to force enemies back in without a plot reason? Regardless, I wander around the shopping center collecting all the items. And seeing as it's now filled with special forces, you're encouraged to do so stealthily, which is tricky, seeing as they have this new device which looks for you, and when spotted, it will alert the military to your location. Also, at some point they'll turn off the lights, making it harder to see anything. I appreciate the game trying to switch up its gameplay, but it's short-lived and fairly easy as I make it back to Isabella in no time, and we continue the discussion about the cure, because it turns out it may not even be a cure. It may just be a drug that prolongs the zombification process. She isn't really sure. All she knows is that Carlito got 50 orphans, infected them with the zombie parasite, and then gave them the antidote drug, and then spread them across America. And once again, they may or may not be cured of the zombie infection. We have no idea. The two of them then freak out about this, then refocus their attention back on finishing the antidote, as the process for creating the drug isn't finished yet, as we now need 10 queens in order to complete it, which means you'll need to carry back 10 queens using your inventory. And seeing as I had such a perfect inventory, that hurt me a little, but I knew it had to be done. Next, I needed a place where I could kill a large number of zombies without dying and somehow managing to collect 10 queens from them. And then I remember the car park and how there was always a group of zombies right next to the car. So I headed over, hopped in the car and gathered my first 5 queens, no problem. But when heading back, we passed by the clock tower, which has an exit which leads out of the shopping center, but it appears to be covered in zombies, so not sure how we'll be using that to escape, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, I make it back to Isabella, who tells me the power isn't working anymore, and she wants us to turn on the backup generator, which can be found at the clock tower, and she won't take any queens from us until it's back on. So I travel back out to the clock tower, when out of nowhere this helicopter starts attacking me. So I rush to the clock tower, get the generator, and make it back to Isabella. From there we get the power to start working again, and I give her my 5 queens. So I just need 5 more. But now when I head out, I unfortunately have a helicopter now trying to kill me. So I can't keep killing the crowds of zombies in the car park like I did before. So now I have to travel into the underground to gain the queens. So I quickly grab the last 5 and make it back to Isabella. I give her the last 5 queens and she gives Frank the antidote drug. After that, the two of them theorize on a way to get out of this place. Frank mentions the clock tower path, but it's unfortunately filled with zombies. Isabella then mentions how she created a perfume which she believes will repel zombies, but hasn't tested it yet. So the two head over to the clock tower to escape and test the perfume, which works. Oh, how very convenient. So now in the tunnel, you move around this place holding Isabella's hand as she repels the zombies away from you guys. Checking your watch tells you the batteries are dead, and the only items you can find here are rocks and fallen limbs from the zombies. But you journey through the tunnels, completing some obstacles along the way. And when you get to the end of the tunnels, you find a couple military guys, 3 apples, and 1 vehicle which we used to make our escape. And just when we thought we finally escaped, the special forces send a tank to come and kill us. So now we have to battle with this tank, which is surprisingly very easy. You just have to keep shooting at it, whilst it will occasionally send attacks your way. And seeing as you have unlimited ammunition, and the tank isn't always fighting back, I literally completed it on my first attempt, only having lost 2 health bars. And when taking damage, I thought it was a little sus how Frank sounded like a woman when hit. Until I realized we are actually playing as Isabella in this moment, as the previous cutscene showed Frank driving the vehicle whilst Isabella was operating the turret. So that was actually a nice little attention to detail. Regardless, we defeat the tank and then this happens.
These automated machines are no use at all on the battlefield. Switch to manual control. Aim main cannon.
Oh, shit.
Well, what have we here? as prey. You and your kind are much more stubborn than the zombies.
How much do you know about the zombies?
I commanded the Santa Cabeza cleanup operation. If we had fulfilled our mission then, we wouldn't be needed here now to take care of this incident.
That's all it was to you, huh? A mission. What about those innocent people who had to pay for sins committed by our government and its inhuman
Mistakes have not
research?
begun with this operation. Humanity has proven itself to be quite adept at making mistakes. Ha! Hell, it's the only thing we truly excel at. Well then, I'd say this mission isn't quite over yet. Don't you agree?
And the final battle begins. Brock is an extremely difficult fight. On my first attempt, I didn't even think it was possible to beat him without using items. But the game doesn't let you use any items. You have to beat Brock one-on-one. No weapons allowed. And if he gets a hold of you, he'll take a good chunk of your health. And when trying to hit him, you'll find he blocks most of your attacks. So just trying to land a hit on him is not easy. And avoiding his attacks is also not easy. The final battle takes place on this tank which you can jump off and wander around. You can even find Isabella, though you can't interact with her, but you can interact with the zombies, and the only item you can get your hands on is their fallen limbs. So I tried to use the limbs in order to hurt Brock, but it just wasn't working, and when I died, I went all the way back to the tunnels, which is such a pain to have to do that all over again. But the most annoying part is the tank fight, as it's long and so uninteresting, as it's just so easy to defeat. It presents such little challenge but takes so long to defeat, because they gave it such a huge health bar, but after defeating it you were back to fighting Brock. And this time I tried to use the zombie limb strategy again, but it still didn't work. I tried a third time and started questioning my method, so the next time I decided to fight him the old-fashioned way, fists only, and the battle was intense. Every now and again Brock will hit you off the tank, and you'll struggle to get back as zombies try killing you, and I struggled for so long just trying to land hits on him, but after realizing both our health was extremely low, I locked in, and the next thing I knew, Brock was defeated. With Brock finally defeated, we get a little more lore as the game explains Frank West finally managed to escape and bring to light the information about the zombies, and have the American government admit at least partial blame for creating zombie livestock. However, they never acknowledged the incident in Willamette, and today it is just thought the deed was committed by a fringe terrorist group. And as time passed by, the Willamette incident faded from people's minds, and we still don't know what became of Carlito's plan with the orphan. dolphins. And yet, Frank complained that his belly was not full, and that's the official end of the Dead Rising story. But it's not over just yet, as we unlock the last game mode, named Infinity Mode. So I boot it up and find I'm back to the security room. So I make my way to the roof and see Otis. I go chat with him, only for him to start attacking me. So we fight and I manage to kill him. It was at this point I realized Infinity Mode is not a continuation of the storyline. Instead, the game will take whatever level you were when you completed the game, which in my case was level 38, and you have to try to survive for as long as possible, with the loading zone timer now showing me the length of time I have been alive for. Now you also don't level up in this game mode. Instead, your level up bar has been replaced by your hunger bar, as food is the most valuable item in this game mode. Your hunger bar will constantly go down as time passes by, without your control, and every time it finishes you lose one health box. So you must constantly consume food in order to stay alive. But in this game mode, food items are limited, as they will not respawn like in the other game modes, and you can't obtain them by using the cardboard boxes and garbage bins. So you must be wise about your food consumption. You also can't save, and every character you find will be an enemy you must defeat, and defeating them will give you some rewards, like weapons and food. Like when I killed Otis just now, I got raw meat and a bunch of useless weapons. So it's now up to you to try and survive for as long as possible. So the next thing I did was check out the helipad, and it was pretty strange seeing it crawling with zombies. But next I head to the shopping center and go upstairs to munch on some pies and grab some orange juice. And whilst doing so, I notice an item on the roof. Find myself a katana. Cool little hidden weapon. Next I head to the park and find the American sniper family of 3. I take a while but manage to kill them all and grab their loot, which was difficult seeing as it was dark and the zombies kept attacking me. Afterwards I head to the North Plaza, as I thought going to the supermarket would make this game mode much easier, seeing as it has unlimited food items. So I was being pretty careless and taking unnecessary damage, as I kept telling myself I'll just heal up when I make it to the supermarket. Along the way I passed a hardware store and see the machete isn't there, and that's because I unlocked it in the story mode when I defeated that war veteran, so I can't obtain it here in this game mode. I also see my raw meat has gone rotten, so I go someplace safe and I eat it, and it did regenerate my health, but it also stuns me, and I had a feeling it would. But I grab a few other weapons and journey over to the supermarket, only to find it's locked in this game mode, and there is no way to enter in. I low-key panic as I didn't have a backup plan and was playing reckless, so I start to think of other places which have food items, and decide the food court is the next best place to go. But I stop by the gun store really quick, and whilst I'm here I access the hideout, but there is nothing here. Over to the food court and I try to get my hands on a mini chainsaw, but it's also not here, as I unlocked it when I defeated that clown. It was already hard enough that food items don't respawn, but now not having access to some of the best weapons in the game makes me scared for my survivability. But I make it to the food court and finally get my hands on some wine, when out of nowhere I hear someone shooting at me. It's Carlito, so I kill him and make my way over to grab my reward, and I'm given some amazing prizes like a well done steak, which is actually one of the best healing items in the game, and I eat it immediately. And as I look at the other rewards, it was only now I realized my level up bar is actually my hunger bar, and it was here I slowly started to understand the mechanics and overall objective of this game mode, and realized my huge mistake in eating that steak just now. So I decide to sit here and just wait for my health to go down, and eat the food strategically, which of course is boring. Next I wander around the shopping center looking for some more food. I spot a coffee creamer and strategically wait for my health to go down in order to drink it. And whilst I wait, I play around with a mega blaster I found, until it runs out of ammo and I do nothing, which is boring and probably the reason I don't heavily enjoy this game mode. However, I'm still glad they added it in, seeing as after you've completed 72-hour mode and overtime mode, you can now play Infinity Mode, which will always be a replayable game mode. So I understand the game creators are just trying to give you as much game time as possible. They wanted this to be a game you can always return to and always find something new to achieve, which I understand is one of the game's main goals, as it's reflected in the 72-hour mode through the time mechanic. as the whole concept is centered around certain events happening at certain times and locations, and the game expects you to miss a lot of these events on your first run, as it's just inevitable, which gives this sense of, it's alright because I can always just replay the game and make sure to do it all correctly next time, as that's the expectation the time concept creates. As once again, Dead Rising wanted to reflect the real intense chaotic atmosphere from a real zombie outbreak, as that is a situation you probably wouldn't be able to take your time and go around exploring. Instead, it would be a dire situation which requires quick thinking and decision making. But after realizing there is a strict schedule for how the game wants you to play it out, with you going to each event at the precise time and location, you quickly realize that's just the only way to achieve the perfect run of the game. You must complete this one perfect scheduled run of the game, following each event and completing it at the right time, which of course is a fun challenge, but it also limits one's freedom, as the time mechanic limits you from exploring the shopping center and truly enjoying the open world aspect of the game, as this game doesn't reward you for taking your time and getting creative with your approach to completing the schedule, and instead rewards players for strictly obeying this schedule. And don't get me wrong, it's fun to complete the game following this schedule, and that's because the game instead rewards creativity in the gameplay, as you have a sheer variety of weapons littered around the shopping center, and due to each weapon having low durability, it creates small moments of resource management, as you're always on the lookout for new weapons, and you'll constantly have to question if you'll manage with your current inventory, or if you'll need to make a quick run for a new item. And whilst you usually default to the better items, of course, they also have limits you must take into consideration, and this is where the innovation balances with the strict obedience, as things will usually never go to plan, especially with the game's horrible survivor AI system. And look, saving stranded survivors shouldn't be an easy accomplishment, but when the survivors are so helpless you regularly watch them run into walls, you know the coding could have been optimized, and so it forces you to rely on cheap tactics like leaving and returning to the area, but you push through it because of the game's convicting storyline, which is paced so perfectly, as the game never gives you too much information that you don't know what's going on. Instead, it perfectly drip feeds you enough information to keep you interested and informed on what you're doing and why you're doing it, and partnered with some characters who have some real depth to them, being the main characters and the side characters. It compels you to try to save all of them and achieve the good ending, which leads into overtime mode, which unfortunately is a bit of a letdown, as the story is easy to follow along, but it feels a little rushed, as it doesn't feel as well thought out as before, with convenient story devices and the reintroduction of the zombies in the military as enemies for the sake of gameplay, as we just saw them both disappear at the end of the 72-hour mode. Also, this main antagonist feels more shallow. All of this makes overtime mode instead feel like the game trying to set the stage for the sequel, instead of delivering its own unique compelling narrative, which brings us back to infinity mode, as it attempts to solve the issues from the time mechanic, as the time limitations have been removed, and you are now free to explore the shopping center to your heart's desire. And unlocking this game mode after completing the other two modes guarantees you'll be familiar with the shopping center layout, but the game will also give you an objective, which is survive for as long as possible, even cleverly replacing your level up bar for a hunger bar, so you are now given the freedom to create strategies to do whatever necessary to survive. Unfortunately, some of those strategies are waiting around for your hunger bar to go down, which isn't very fun, because strategically waiting for your hunger bar to decrease is just boring. But whilst waiting, I remember there is another way to enter the supermarket, as it can be accessed through the underground tunnels. So I know it's crazy, but I traveled to the underground tunnels and went all the way to the door and found it, but it's locked. So I try to leave when Carlito shows up in his van and tries to kill me. Like, what the hell, I thought I killed this guy back at the food court, but this time he manages to kill me, and my infinity mode run comes to an end. And if you still think that's it, you'd be wrong. One last thing to note is replaying 72-hour mode or overtime mode. The game will start you off in the level you finished the game on. So replaying 72-hour mode from the start, I begin the game at level 38, which would make things so much easier for me if I wanted to try save all the the survivors this time. So I spent a good few hours just replaying this game again. And it's so crazy that I'm still discovering new mechanics and things about this game. And seeing as the maximum level is level 50, you can probably achieve this very easily on your second run. So that's Dead Rising. What a game. All about a determined journalist eager to learn the truths of the zombie origin, with an extremely well-paced story, as you were never lost or confused about what you were doing, or why you were doing it, and with engaging characters, and a sense of humor which doesn't take itself too seriously. Also stunning character designs, as I was seriously impressed for a 2006 game, noticing subtle details on characters and cutscenes. But I also enjoyed the loading screens, as they always consisted of pictures which were core memories from the game. You can clearly see the well-crafted love and care the creators put into this title, as even the survivors feel memorable, having been given a layer of depth most games would have ignored when creating such characters. However, the survivor AI being unreliable and poorly programmed hinders the game, and creates brutal demands when paired with the game's time mechanics, which serves as a staple of the game, and is arguably where all your remaining time will be used in. And with limited fast travel options and save locations, it's easy to see why this game has a reputation for being difficult, and with its survival horror design and variation in weapons, it favors exploration and experimentation, with all weapons having low durability, which can feel gimmicky at times but still places Dead Rising as its own unique take on a well-established genre. So I feel like giving Dead Rising a high 8 out of 10. I really did enjoy this game. But as always, man, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, man, take care.